belligerent passenger causing sheer chaos in the air. And it got so bad that flight attendants had to duct tape the man to his seat. Ever since masks were required on airplanes, flight attendants say that their work has become downright dangerous.
Now understand something. I'm a flight attendant. That means I attend the flights. Sometimes our job has us attending to crazy people. If you push us too far, you're going to have to attend this ass whooping. You see, because on this particular flight, I'm sitting in the jump seat and I'm just looking at him like the damn fool. He's spitting and cussing and going crazy. I say, that's enough. I got up and I walked over there. And by the way, this man smelled like a pack of Marlboro cigarettes, 4 shots of Everclear alcohol, and regret. So I know something's about to go down. At this point, he touching all over my coworker's breast. And where he f***ed up at is when he touched my titties. Because I don't play that. So what I did is I took out the duct tape. I said, he got scared, start stuttering, say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. I said, yeah, we about to mummify your ass now, boy. So we wrapped him up. Better than any Christmas present you will ever see. He won't be coming on no more Frontier flights at all.
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like the show. Everything is ready. We're raring to go. We'll give you all the latest songs and then we'll pull up them. We're gonna start with high shot. Just watch this chorus steps.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fantastic Comics Presents. This is our 80th episode, and I'm going to be inviting Rick Worley onto the show in just a few moments. We're going to have our own little Siskel and Ebert about Suicide Squad tonight. And we change it to this. There we go. Yeah, I watched the movie. I saw that Rick had mentioned it on Twitter, and I knew I was going to be watching it this weekend just because. And I thought, wow, man, he has some opinions. We should bring him on and talk about it. It should be pretty fun. Also, we're going to talk about all sorts of other things, comic book related. Let's see. For those of you that don't know, so let me introduce. Hi, everybody. I'm Yule. I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. This is not just a show about comic books, but it is from a comic book store owner's point of view. Oh, let me tell you, there's it's the kind of week you don't want to be an owner, or maybe even work in the industry at all, unless you're I don't know, Jonathan Hickman or James Tynion or Scotty Young, maybe Mark Miller still. That's a dude you want to be in comics. As far as selling them, it's difficult. And then, shipments occur or don't. And we're going to be talking about that in just a moment also. Anyway, yeah, a comic book store owner's point of view. Plus, we're going to talk about some comics that are coming out tomorrow, so I hear. And we'll talk about some comics maybe that didn't happen that we'll be getting later. Basically, I'm saying Fantinuum, wait till the weekend. Unfortunately, this weekend is also Free Comic Book Day. And, or fortunately, I am also waiting for some books from Lunar. That's the DC stuff. And it's, nitty gritty time. Plus some of the other things that are rolling down on the bottom of the screen. That's what we're going to be talking about. I wanted to, before I say hi to Rick, let you guys know about a little bit of Twitter stuff that was happening to me this week. And I wanted to like screenshot stuff in the right time because I didn't know that what I had said was going to be a problem for anybody. But I found out that Mr. Owl turned 51 this last week. And that prompted me to quote tweet it and say, holy shit, I'm older than Tootsie Pop the Owl, the Tootsie Pop Owl, Mr. Owl. And there was a tweet that was deleted by the tweet author, and that was the Mr. Owl dude. I feel so bad, but he didn't take away the like, and he took glee in the fact that I was actually older than him. And I hope he got in a lot of trouble, and that's why it got deleted. Unfortunately, I didn't make the special list of people that celebrate his birthday with him. Maybe next year. I'll try not to curse. With that, let's say hi to Rick first. Let's do it this way. I want to use that when I can. Let me do this. Hey, Rick, how's it going?
Oh,
hey, everybody.
Pretty good. How are you?
Do you mind if I, since I didn't do this yet, let me just say this to everybody in the audience.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
What's up, everybody? Are you interested in hearing what people had to say about my extra long opening?
Yeah, are we supposed to talk about COVID or Suicide Squad or how Robin likes dick or which?
There's a couple things
order?
about dick. Well, we can do it in any order.
Okay.
It ain't that big a deal.
Okay.
Maybe we can like actually craft it loosely so that it's free flowing, but who knows? To do that, I'll probably have to ignore everybody. So let's like talk to them first. Fantinian was here way earlier in the day as You Murdered That Guy. Jilby Pills in the other room. Coffee Junkie, yo. I don't know if you saw the movie, but we're going to be talking about it. It might be fun. We talked a lot about Star Trek The Next Generation last week with ATN. I don't know which clip it was. Maybe the Tom Hanks son one. Yeah, anti-masker. What's his name? Zach Hanks? Skank Hanks? Whatever.
I didn't know there was. I thought there was just the actor. I didn't know how many. I didn't know he also had a stupid blonde kid. I thought he just had the one. Colin Hanks. Is that the one?
I don't know. It says here he has two sons.
Okay.
That was a very not well thought out promo, if you ask me. Like he, and it was like Rob Liefeld. You might have a lot of things to say, but they're not escaping your mouth at all.
Was he being totally? I think he was trying to be funny, but I think his. I don't think the anti-vaccination part was supposed to be funny.
I don't know, but it says here that Chet Hanks is anti-vax. He looked it up.
That's Chet.
Chet. All I know other than that is that Tom Hanks, him and his wife had COVID in the very beginning.
And Tom got very sick. He said it was really bad. So
yeah, it's kind of weird that you'd have a family member like that. But, you know, usually if you're a denier of anything, once your family member, you know, it occurs with them, whatever it may be, it feels like there's more of a possibility of acceptance.
that's what I was going to say, though, is I hate people that are like, they're anti-gay. And then they find out, oh, my aunt that I like is a lesbian. And so suddenly now they're pro-gay. I hate people that they only care if it affects them, you know? That's the whole problem with well, I'm not going to die from it. So why do I care, you know? It doesn't matter until it happens to them. There's like something broken in their brain that they can't conceptualize that there's other human beings out there that aren't directly involved with them, you know? But you name your kid Chet, what's going to happen, you know?
Well, Tom Hanks, also a big Raider fan. Take that for what you will.
You mean Raiders, the football team?
Pardon me, yeah, the football team. He's a big Oakland Raider fan.
My mom was into Raiders. I don't know why, but she was.
The Raiders. Kenny Stabler, that's why. The old ladies, they love that. They love the snake. ATN here says, look at those shelves.
It's talking about my shelves.
I don't have no shelves behind me.
I am very
Well,
proud
not
of
many.
my shelves. I've been starting to post shelf porn on Twitter, and people seem to like it.
I saw somebody post shelf porn, and the first thing I wanted to say in a response tweet is, I was really into what I was seeing. It was like, oh, good, now I can judge you.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. When I go to people's houses, I always zoom over and look at the bookshelves, and they're always like, "Don't judge me." I'm like, "What do you think?" Of course, I'm judging you.
Of course, I am.
That's why you have a bookshelf. Yeah, but I've got to the point where I have some pretty cool stuff, so I'm happy to show it off.
Storyboards by Stuff Pop says, I hope Buzz Aldrin's son is a moon landing denier. That would be great. I just before the show, the Antiques Roadshow was on, and this woman had time covers signed by the people that were on them. And one of them was like the Apollo 3. Oh, God, my history. Whatever that one was at the moon landing.
Apollo something.
Yeah, Apollo something. Yeah, because Hanks is from Oakland. Did I cut you off? I'll talk about your shells for a second. Don't be selfish.
You didn't cut me off.
Okay, good.
If people have questions, I can answer or show off stuff. But
look at that rack. That's right. That's right. Tell me about your bookshelf behind you. You said you're going to be posting some shelf porn. Would you like to plug anything before we get started? Really getting rolling? Tell me about your Twitter handle.
Oh, my Twitter handle is Blood of the Land, which is a Bob Dylan quote. But yeah, I think you could find me on Twitter or YouTube just by Rick Worley. My
That's
YouTube
right.
channel is just Rick Worley if you want my videos. And I link to everything else on there.
And for those of you that haven't been with Rick on the show with me, he has done some documentaries. Would you like to explain what they are?
I've done some movie videos, some Star Wars videos. I've done 2 big videos. There's a Star Wars video that's a really deep dive into kind of the inspirations and stuff behind like the film theory of Star Wars. And then I did a video about the Woody Allen story, which is that's the other one that gets attention.
You go for those hot button issues right there.
I get, I didn't like playing it that way, but I thought about it after, and I was like, well, that's how you either you do a Star Wars video or you do like a hot take on like a sex scandal, right? But if you do any Star Wars video, you get the 10,000 nerds to come watch it. Half of them tell you to kill yourself because they don't agree with your opinion, but the other half become instant fans because they watch every Star Wars thing. So, and the Woody Allen thing, I just did it because it was something that I've been a fan of his movies for a long time. So it was like, followed the case for 20 years, and I see people all the time talking about it that have no idea at all what they're talking about. And so I thought it was a big involved story, and I thought it would make a good video. Of course, a lot of people don't see it as just like a story. It's the fact that I did a video about that. I now have people calling me a child molester and a predator, and people that haven't watched the video, of course. But I just thought it was, it's a really complicated story, and I thought it was interesting. It was worth the video.
Well, now see, the thing, Joe, is a Cuomo video would be good, but Rick would have done it 2 years before what happened today. Like he did with the Phantom Menace. Now people like the Phantom Menace, but they didn't then. And Rick was like, he was holding the torch long before people said, well, I guess I'll go like all the other George Lucas stuff now.
I think that's another thing with those two is I kind of caught the zeitgeist a little bit because I did the Woody Allen video a year before HBO had their big series and everything. And then everybody, the idiots that are calling me a child molester that haven't watched my videos, they're like, this guy did a whole video to deny Dylan Farrow's accusations from the HBO series. It's like, actually, I did it a year before the HBO series, and it's mostly information that's been in the public for 20 years. But they happen to, now people are into the prequels again because they hate the Disney stuff. So suddenly they decided, oh, George Lucas isn't so bad. So suddenly,
it's not so bad. At least it came from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Like it
until
or not,
he remakes it.
At least it's real Star Wars, like it or not. It's.
It
as
is
opposed to
that.
this Disney shit, whatever this is.
How do you feel about all the extracurricular, like the books and the comics, like from Dark Horse and the Tor paperback novels? Those were all had to work with Lucasfilms at the time, so those felt like those were real canon. You know,
They were
as close to Lucas as you could get.
sort of.
Yeah.
Lucas would he would dip in and dip out. Sometimes he'd contribute, or sometimes he would like nick something. He'd say that's not Star Wars. How they had it at Lucasfilm at the time was they had tiers of canon, and the movies were the top tier. And Luke, that was Lucas could do whatever he wanted in the movies, and then the comics and stuff were like subservient. So if he was, Lucas could contradict it if he wanted, or he could use it if he wanted. So the comics, I don't. I read them a lot more like in the 90s, back when it started, because back then there was 3 Star Wars movies and then there was nothing else. There was 5 books, and I remember that first Dark Horse comic. There was just a handful of. Right. So I would read it then, but at some point it just kind of lost me. It got too far away from the actual, the core thing.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. What about all? I mean, I don't mean to make this all Star Wars. And then, of course, you had all those cartoons and things that were going on during the time. I know a lot of people like that stuff also. Yeah,
well, Lucas, with the tiers of canon, the Clone Wars show, Lucas actually was involved in that a lot. Mm-hmm. So there's several episodes of that he used to kind of tell backstory and things that didn't make it into the movies. But it actually is Lucas's official, this is his answer to, whatever, how did Order 66 work or whatever. Right. So there's some of that's actually, that's the real deal. So some of that's pretty interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, so check out Rick Worley's YouTube channel for sure. And he's broken up those very lengthy videos into little sections and done some other things that coordinate with them also with the videos. And it's really good stuff. I highly recommend it. It's it's like 2 hours, those movies, right? Or the things that you do.
The big ones, yeah.
The big ones. But once you're into it, you turn around and it's like you're at that 30-minute mark, and then all of a sudden it's almost over, and it's like, wow, it just flows. And you got a great narrator's voice also.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I mean, I tried really hard to make it have an enjoyable flow. And the biggest complaint I get is people telling me that I talk too fast. And I know a lot of people miss stuff because when I'm talking, I'll have different things going on with the picture. So it's pretty dense because I didn't want it to get boring. So they're 2 hours, but I could have cut it down into 5 1-hour videos just because there's just a lot of stuff. So, I mean, if it's interesting to you, then I think it's worth 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's hope this is at least worth 45 minutes today. Okay, let's put on tonight's show so we can go through some of these things. Let's hit some really small things really quick. Fantastic Comics news. We were at the Berkeley Comic Show selling Silver Age comics. It was wonderful for us. We did some really good business, and it's going to help our customer that we are working with his consigned books very well. And excellent. Way to go. I also bought something at the Berkeley Comic Show. I bought Hulk 234. This was a comic I got as a kid, and I have another copy of it now, but I wanted to upgrade. Always looking to upgrade this one. So this is probably like a VF. And it's Hulk. He's Battleground Berkeley. It's the first Quasar, but it's really the Berkeley aspect. Now that I've moved up to this area and have a comic store in Berkeley, that was important to have. And then most recently, I did a video with Wes at Thinking Critical about who's better, Batman or Spider-Man, as far as their villains and all this other stuff, and what goes into making a good comic book character. And I kind of, looking through back issues or collections, I had the Essential Spider-Mans in black and white, and I said, wow, I really need this one. So it's a Ditko comic. It's the first Princess Python. Right around the centerfold is where she is using her Python to try and capture Spider-Man. And that 6-panel page is really special. And I had to have that. So that's my first time having that.
That's an expensive one, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. I got a deal. Didn't ask for one, but I got one. But we were working with him with some of the books that we had also. So it worked out. And now I can work on trying to upgrade that. Let's see what's else. Oh, so comic book news. Free Comic Book Day is on Saturday. We will have free comics. I have them downstairs ready to go. I don't know if I'll have the DC stuff. DC was supposed to come in on Monday normally so that I can take it to the store on Tuesday. It didn't come today, and I didn't open the store anyway, but we're going to have new books tomorrow, just not DC. I don't know when it's going to happen. It also makes me think that maybe I want to open on Sundays regularly and Tuesdays not at all. So if anybody goes to our store, oh hell, anybody in chat, what do you like? Would you rather have the possibility of going in on a Tuesday to a comic store for new DC comic books, theoretically, or Sunday when you can get everything? Are you more likely to go to the comic store on a Sunday or a Tuesday? If you're the kind of person that goes on a Tuesday, do you go back for a Wednesday because there's Marvel and Oni and Image? But what would you rather go? Where would you rather go, Tuesdays or Saturdays? And let me know in the comments after the fact. Anybody listening to this, this is something I could use. This is a nice little poll. Would you rather shop on Tuesday or would you rather shop on Sunday? Are you more likely to frequent a comic store on a Sunday afternoon or a Tuesday, 5 o'clock? Thank you for your help. Let's see if anybody Sunday. Well, Fantinuum. You can't always. It needs to be more than just you. Free parking on Sunday, Moby. Give me a break. What do you think, Rick? More Tuesday or Sunday?
Well, I don't. I don't buy anything new. I only buy collected editions and old issues. So
Yeah.
I don't think of the day of the week. When I was buying a lot of new stuff, I would always have to be there Wednesday morning because I wanted to. I would panic that I was, the one I wanted was going to sell out, so I'd always be there right away. But I don't know now, because now with the Tuesday, I don't know if I'd come Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't think I would do that.
I have a customer that does that, but I think he works or lives in the area, so he just goes and gets one and then gets the other.
Yeah.
But I have been thinking of testing it out, Fantinuum. I just don't want to do it and work 6 days all at the same time.
Well, see, if you were closed Tuesday, then that would be people could just come Wednesday. Then they wouldn't have to worry about missing out on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
releases.
I mean, I have a few people that they come in on Tuesday. I've had people come in, and it's irregular that they will come in on a Tuesday. But I think I'm missing out on the weekend aspect of sales, and I might not even have to be open as long and still do better business than I do on Tuesday.
Well, it would simplify it because if you weren't open Tuesday, then the new comics people that want the new stuff and they want to be first, they just have one day to come. They don't have to pick a day.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Anyhow, that's enough stuff like that. I told you, and you didn't know this, today we found out that Robin is bisexual.
Yeah, you still have to explain that because I don't know. There's a story about this in the
There
comments?
are a lot of headlines that are clickbaity,
Mhm.
and they'll say it's official, Robin is gay. When I tell you Robin is gay, you said you're a gay man, Rick, or bi, I should say. He is. You are not.
Yeah, I'm not bi.
What do you, when you hear that Robin is bi, officially LGBTQ plus, Robin is in that category now. How do you feel?
Well, which Robin are we talking about? This isn't Damien, right? Is it one
No,
of
it's
the...
not Damien. We found out that Tim Drake is gay. Spoilers, everybody. It's
Oh,
in the
okay.
new Batman Urban Adventures.
Well, my thought is, I mean, you kind of know some of this, my long history of perving on Robin, because that's probably what made me like Batman in the first place. As a little kid watching the Adam West show, and I was in love with Burt Ward. He was real cute. He was running around in tights in his underwear. And I think a lot of gay kids were obsessed with that. So to me, I mean, I did the whole art show a few years ago in San Francisco at Mission Comics. We did a whole art show. It was called Batman on Robin, and it was all comics of Batman fucking Robin. So, I mean, it's not a. There's a whole lot of people that think not that they're gay in canon, but there's a whole lot of people that have, you know, Frederick Wortham said it 70 years ago that there was a homoeroticism between Batman and Robin.
For
So it's like,
him.
yeah, I mean, I think it's always been part of the. If we have Jason Todd and Tim Drake and Dick Grayson, you know, we have 4 identical Robins running around. Might as well make one of them actually gay. But I don't know what it actually means in the comics. Do they just say that, or does he actually have a boyfriend or something?
One of the very minor characters that he was opposite in like school during the Bill Willingham years is gay, I guess. And through a few issues, they've been kind of like brushing up against each other or saying something that would suggest that there might be something more, but it's really just a tease. And then in this issue, I guess they're going to go out on a date.
Oh, okay.
Tim Drake is suddenly gay now for yaoi purposes. It feels like that South Park episode where they made Tweak and I can't remember who gay, but then they like each other, so they hold hands. It was a very good episode. I like it. I'm not
a big fan of changing characters if it hasn't actually. I mean, I know I say that they've always been gay, and as much as there's always been fan fiction and fan art and whatever, but in the comics, I don't think, you know, the gay subtext has never been intentionally gay subtext, and I don't really think it needs to be there. But I mean, whatever.
Fischosa said minor character was a womanizer, but I will let everybody know out there. I have, and then Bobby Drake when Jean Grey was like, "Come on, Iceman, we all know you're gay." He was doing the whole womanizing bit too, and I've known people that are over what's the word? Overcompensating for not actually liking ladies. It's kind of like womanizing.
Yeah, that doesn't.
It's not. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, it's not like something. I think it's a good stereotype to write as a character, but I mean, it's not an untrue one. Also, I think
there's different degrees of latitude with what we know about the characters, because, you know, some people are trying to campaign for gay Spider-Man, which I personally. I mean, when I was reading Spider-Man as a little gay kid, that was part of the reason, was because I thought he was cute and everything, and so I liked him. But with just what we know about the character, like his love life is such a big part of his character, and the women in his life, that's always been such a huge thing. And so no, I wouldn't want the comics to suddenly make him bi or something, because it's not the character that we know. With Bobby Drake, I guess maybe you could say he was lying to himself or overcompensating. There's a little bit of wiggle room. Tim Drake, maybe a little wiggle room, but Spider-Man, no.
No, I won't have it with Spider-Man.
It's just not the character that we know. You know?
He's made babies.
And also there's in the multiverse now, there's 500 different alternate reality Spider-Men, so just make one of them gay, you know, if you have to have a gay Spider-Man. But
yeah, there's not a British Spider-Man. Make him gay.
There's not. He's British, that means he's gay anyway. It's
possibly. At least he had some schooling.
I've seen boarding school movies. They're all gay.
Let's see. Yes, Spider-Man was. I mean, for me, Spider-Man. Peter Parker was washing his costume in a laundromat, and he scopes out this chick that's looking at him, you know, and stuff like that. And you know, he's got rent problems and, you know, girl problems, black cat, all that stuff. I have heard that about, let's make Peter bi or something like that, and
that's stupid.
It's very upset. I don't know, man. It's just it's just kids being kids, you know, and I understand they're excited for whatever reason for that, but I don't know. It just it makes me think maybe my time has come with this new stuff sometimes.
Well, and it's just what we know about the character's personality. It's not that he had some girlfriends. It's that, you know, he was obsessed with Gwen Stacy and obsessed with Mary Jane. These weren't like a subplot. This was his whole life. It was, you know, he was so obsessed with these girls all the time. He thought he was in love with Betty Brant after 2 issues, you know, and they didn't even have anything in common. He was just, he was obsessed with always wanting the right woman. And that's, it's just, there's only so much you can stretch it before you're not doing the character that we know.
So, yes, you didn't get Dick Grayson, unfortunately, your favorite Robin, correct?
I don't know if he's my favorite Robin.
Would that be going against type if he were the one? Would you be upset then?
No, but I could see it more with Tim Drake.
Upset,
I mean, yeah, I don't actually care, but I think it makes a little more sense with Tim Drake. And I think Tim Drake is more he's more like the cute sidekick outfit and everything. And Dick Grayson, now he's all Nightwing and he's all buff and everything. So it's not really the Robin that I had a crush on when I was a kid.
Right.
So.
All right. Excellent. So they, let's do one last segment. They got it in for us. I am going to share screen. So you asked about X-Men recently, about Hickman, didn't you?
Yeah, you were talking about. I didn't know what was going on over there.
So there is a company called Substack, and they got it in for us. Is all about how the LCS is screwed. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna actually turn off. Whoa. I got to stop my camera. I just hate sharing screen and have my camera on also. It allows me to pick my nose during this time. So Jonathan Hickman, Scott Snyder, Saladin Ahmed, and more are going to launch comics through Substack. Do you know what Substack is? Does anybody out there know what Substack is?
No. Well,
okay.
Sort of. I've heard of it.
So I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were interviewing a guest, and she has a Substack. And what it is you can follow people that write books or articles or whatever, and you follow them with a subscription fee, usually about $7 a month or something like that. There's also like higher levels, kind of like Patreon, where you might get something if you fund for the whole year and then some. And now recently they have been getting comic book creators. And the first comic book creator that signed that everybody paid attention to was Nick Spencer, who's writing Spider-Man right now. Almost immediately after the announcement of that, he was off Spider-Man coming in like the 74th issue.
Is that what happened? Because he was doing the big ending for his Spider-Man run, and then suddenly there were like co-writers and shit, and it seemed like
I think
rushed out the door.
I think he's being pushed out the door for sure.
Okay.
That was my the way it looked to me. It just anyway. You had asked about X-Men and what Hickman had been doing as far as that book was concerned, and on his Substack over here, he has something that he's talking about called, I don't know, 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, something like that. It's a shared universe. He now has a Substack. They give him they call it grants that they give these people. So they give these people grants. They're going to own all their stuff after they first publish online for Substack. And Substack takes like 10% of it. So they take nothing, right? And they're giving these guys, I guess, fat contracts. And, there's been a lot of people talking about how comics aren't paying that well. Like Brett Booth is getting $300 a page, and he's been around for years, that type of thing.
$300 a page? That's fucking nuts.
I know. Well, we can talk about that in a little bit, too. But Hickman is going to take Teenie Howard and Al Ewing and a few other people with him, and they're going to have like a shared universe. Oh, Ram V. Some of these are up and comers. Teenie Howard, obviously, he has a good working relationship with her. There's going to be magic here and stuff like that. Also announced just earlier today, Scotty Young is going to relaunch I Hate Fairyland with Substack, and then eventually it will get collected and put out through Image. And then
there was an article, a Guardian article today about the comics creators are starting to get more outspoken about what they get paid when a movie gets made based on their comics. Did you see that?
Yeah.
They said that I guess a bunch of them, they said that the standard thing is if they get a thank you in the credits of a Marvel movie, Marvel sends them a $5,000 check.
Yeah.
Which that seems like such a slap in the face for $1 billion movie, doesn't it? $5,000 check.
It does. The thing is, the thing is that, you know, I see this in wrestling all the time. There's noise made by people that are young or lower on the totem pole to like unionize, and maybe we should like join SAG and stuff like that, you know. And then in comics, a lot of people do that, but I don't know how you could possibly unionize. It's not like, you know, all like a sports league or something like that. These are companies that are fighting against each other, and
It's too spread out.
yeah, it's too spread out. And then James Tynion is going to be not doing work for DC exclusively anymore, and he signed a fat Substack grant. He got a grant from them, and he's doing everything for DC right now.
Well, I've been saying for years that this is the reason that DC and Marvel, you know, what was the last time that DC had a breakthrough, like a new character that became a major character? You know what, Harley Quinn, like 30 years ago or something? And I think that the reason is because if you have a great idea for a great villain or something, are you going to give it to DC when they're going to send you your shitty little $5,000 check? Or are you going to, you know, take it to Image or take it to Substack, you know?
Right. All right, let's see here. Hold on a sec. Okay, so you can unionize anything. Sure you can. These are all what kind of, they don't have like exclusive contracts when they work for these companies, you know, it's just work for hire. A lot of times. And the page rates are so horrible. And I don't know. I don't think we have seen literally seen on post of Posner, I can't remember his first name, who used to color for Avengers, in his hospital bed, ultimately as he's dying, coloring pages because he's got to get them out, you know. Larry Stroman was in the hospital, and he was dueling for like $50 awesome pictures of characters, and nobody's taking care of anybody. And the thing is, it's like when you get paid a certain amount and they don't want to use you anymore, they just go and get somebody cheaper, and you can hold out, but ain't nobody going to pay you unless they're pals with you. And as the industry moves on, you have less and less pals. And then Teenie Howard's writing everything. You know, I mean, where are all those really awesome people that worked in the past?
Because if you
friends, you know,
$300 a page. Even if you're pretty fast, you can do an issue every month without falling behind. That's what, $6,000 a month. If you got a kid or something, that's no money at all. That's like, you know, it's like food stamp. You'll be on food stamps with, you know, because you'll have $60,000 a year. That's nuts. To draw something that's going to go on and become $1 billion movie.
Well, I don't know. It's all Willy Loman. It's all death of a salesman. Your job doesn't care about you. Ultimately, we're not going to get cradle to grave compensation. Very rarely.
That's why they all need to leave, because they need to Marvel needs to see there's going to be a floor where with $300 a page, Marvel can only get a certain level of really shitty artists, and it's going to start affecting their sales because people are going to go, we don't want to read these ugly comics, you know. There's going to be where they have to pay more to get decent talent, you know, if enough people leave.
But DC, if it sounds like they're paying less and less also, and they're allowing Scott Snyder to go to Substack or Image, and they're allowing James Tynion to. Well, it's not they're allowing. He didn't sign they wanted to sign him for an exclusive 3-year deal, and he was like, nope. How about this? I might work with you on something, but I'm going to do this over here. And I mean, you got to take one of the problems with Substack. A lot of people were bitching about was that it was it was all writers being picked up until this Scotty Young situation. But Scotty Young ultimately is just a writer these days, also.
Well, good. I hope they all leave. And I hope
yeah, I do. But at the same time, how much of your favorite writers, who's your favorite writer in comic books that has worked on mainstream stuff? How's that? I need to put something in there.
Recently?
Yeah, like 20 years, 30 years. Can you get? I mean, there's a lot of people in 30 years.
30 years, sure. If you're saying 30 years, they've got Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, but like current writers.
See, like Grant Morrison. Do you follow him away from Marvel or DC? DC especially. Well, if he writes a Vertigo book or goes and writes Image or something for Boom, are you willing? If you find out he's going to do a Substack, and it might be novel writing, and it might be some artist working with him on something, and it might be poetry and jibber jabber, right? It's just $7 a month. Are you down? You gonna do it?
It depends on the project. I mean, I don't only like his superhero stuff. I've got all the Invisibles omnibuses and thing. I mean, so I like other stuff that he does. I don't like everything he does. I don't want to read his stupid Santa Claus comic or whatever that was. But Klaus, okay. I'll follow him to an extent. Now, like when Morrison's at DC or Marvel, I will, like when Morrison was doing Batman, I would pick up every Batman thing with Morrison's name on it. And that was how I read Batman, is I would just read everything that Morrison wrote. Or like during Final Crisis, I would read all the Morrison stuff, and I would forget all the crossovers. So I would follow the writers that way. I wouldn't read everything that he writes. So I mean,
is there a writer where, like, do any of these people excite you? I'm gonna name them off. I'm gonna Nick Spencer, James Tynion, Scott Snyder, Jonathan Hickman.
Hickman a little bit, but he can get tiresome. But I'll have Hickman periods. I'll binge like all of his Avengers or all of his Fantastic Four.
Now, the threat I find is that they get people to go to them. Let's say they siphon off 10% of the people that would read their stuff in store, willing to read something that isn't Marvel or DC by them. Okay, because there is a big difference between when Hickman was at his height doing Fantastic Four and Avengers, and Hickman at his height doing East to West. Even in my store, I was still selling, for the most part, more Avengers than East to West, although it was pretty comparable.
You're saying that their value is in that writer plus the famous character, not just the writer on his own.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's only Frank Miller and Sin City, and who else? I mean, you can't say Dave Sim because he didn't do mainstream stuff. He only did Cerebus, and that wasn't a,
that you follow from superheroes into other stuff.
I'm just trying to think of other people. I personally have, but I've worked in a comic store and owned a comic store for a long time now, and it's not hard for me to do that. But the casual fan, do they even know really who Grant Morrison is? And do they know that he does something other than Justice League, Batman, or X-Men? There was a critic of comic books out there on YouTube, and he didn't even know about Why the Last Man. Are you even a critic when you don't know what Why the Last Man is?
Well, that's my problem with a lot of Star Wars commentary and comic book commentary, is that they're not actually fans of the mediums. They're fans of a particular franchise or a particular company.
But I don't want to gatekeep.
I used to read almost only indie comics, and like art comics and Art Spiegelman and Daniel Klaus and all that kind of thing. That's mostly what I read. But I've kind of drifted away from that stuff over the years, and I don't read as much comics as I used to. And the comics I read now are for nostalgia. So I'm going back to what I liked when I was 12. So I'm reading Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. And that's my comic book diet. It came
A
full
lot of
circle
people
back
say
to,
the good stuff,
yeah.
the
'Cause
golden age.
I burned out on, like autobiographical comics and stuff. I like, R. Crumb and everything was what that was my main thing for a long time. But that stuff kind of gets samey after a while. There's only so much.
Right.
I saw an interview with, I saw Daniel Clowes. I think it was an Alternative Press Expo, and he was talking. And he said that, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not using his real words because I just saw this in person like 8 years ago. But he said he thinks that comics is kind of an unrealized medium because he said there's so few like fully realized masterpieces in comics. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of half finished, or like somebody will be a really good illustrator but they can't write for shit, or they'll be a really good writer but they can't really. And he's like, I don't really think comic books, we don't really have like our Moby Dick or our Ulysses or like our big masterpieces, because it's just a medium that it requires too many skill sets, and there's too many commercial considerations, and stuff's coming out episodically and things don't get finished. And at the time I was very offended because I was like, of course comics are as good as any other medium because I make comics, right? And I'm like, my comics are as good as James Joyce. But over the years I've kind of realized that I think it's true. Most comics are sort of compromised in some way, that they weren't quite finished to the way that they would have been finished if they had infinite time and infinite resources.
That's why I appreciate the group effort on a comic book sometimes more than the one person doing it, because that one person can write and draw and they might be able to do both adequately or perfectly, but even then there's something that they're going to miss. And when you have the perfect marriage of an editor, a letterer, colorist, a penciler, an inker, a writer, working together, sometimes those stories are still, for the most part, my favorite everything is probably something like, Frank Miller on Daredevil, or Byrne on Fantastic Four. But man, Byrne and Claremont and Austin on X-Men, it's really special. But I love Matt Wagner's Mage, but it has faults,
Yeah. I saw R. Crumb when he came to San Francisco, and he was talking about his illustrated Genesis that he did. And I asked him why he hasn't done more like, book length things, because he does like 20-30 page things, because R. Crumb I think can be a brilliant writer and a brilliant satirist, and I think he's also one of the best illustrators ever. And I would love to see like a 400 page R. Crumb magnum opus, intricate, fully realized masterpiece. And he said that he likes the one issue size because he can do it in a couple months and then it's out there and people can read it. And he's kind of and he talked about doing the Book of Genesis, and he said Aileen had to buy him a cabin up in the mountains in France and like take his phone and make him go sit there just to draw, because even to do the Book of Genesis, that he didn't write it. It's of course it's the Bible, but but just to illustrate that, like 300 pages or whatever of like his intricate cross hatching, and it's one book, it's all in the same style, and just to do that, that's just sitting at a table laboriously for like 2 years, like 10 hours a day. And now that I've done some bigger books, I understand you just like at some point you've written it and like the creative part is over and you're just sitting there like laboring on the drawings for months and months, and it kills you. So that I do wish that I could have like Dave Sim had Gerhard to come in, and Dave Sim, he does the script and he does the artwork, and then he's like, Gerhard, you go finish this because I can't fucking sit here and do 90 castle drawings, because it's like it's just so much labor to it, So that's why like movies, there's no one person that makes a movie, you need a crew. So I've kind of come to understand that with comics is just because I really wish I could just do the breakdowns and then pass it off to somebody.
All right. So Storyboard says, speaking of, I just picked up and started reading Ghost World yesterday. Excellent. I also recommend the movie. We're going to be talking about a movie in just a second. Terry Zwigoff did that movie.
Great movie.
And I think Klaus hated him afterwards. He also did the Crumb biography, which I think Crumb hated him afterwards also.
I think Crumb said Crumb is kind of ambivalent. Well, Crumb put it off on his wife. He said Aileen hated it. That's what he said. I think that was his way of saying that he hated it.
No, that's what
he's kind of like,
that's
oh,
what our
well,
significant others are for.
he said Aileen thought it was a really unfair portrait, but he didn't want to seem like he's complaining himself. But he's like, yeah, Aileen thought it was unfair.
I love Trina Robbins in that movie, the Crumb movie. It's hilarious.
She's really funny in that movie. Yeah,
she likes him and hates him all at the same time.
I disagree with her on a lot of things, but she has really good commentary in that movie. She's really.
What about? All right, so here's a question. What about From Hell? Very specific genre, I know.
Yeah, From Hell. Yeah,
that's a pretty magnus opus kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like the that's the level I'm talking about. Like,
that's the bar.
Like a fully realized literary masterpiece, really intricate, works on all levels, and comics hardly has any of those. And yeah, and I don't. If Alan Moore had drawn it himself, he'd probably still be drawing it today. But it's you got to find that the really simpatico. The Eddie Campbell is just perfect for that. And that Eddie Campbell could put in the labor of researching what all these buildings look like and all these, all these really specific things that you have to have. But,
hold on. Crumb gained his biggest fame from that movie. I don't know what the 60s were like, late 60s, early 70s. It was when you're old, who cares?
I think that movie did bring him to a new generation, but at that time he was living in France and he didn't really give a fuck if he had new American fans.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's true.
He also, in that movie, he talks a lot about women would never sleep with me until I got famous and then I could get women. But fame in comics, we talked about this last time I was here with you. Fame in comics is so relative because comics is so small. And when, and he's like, he talks about it like that he became this big rock star and he was getting laid all the time. And I saw an interview with him a few years ago where they asked, like, well, how many women were you with, with your height of your fame? And he said he thought that he had slept with, I think his number was 28 women in his life. And I'm thinking, like, I mean, when I was a gay guy in San Francisco in my early 20s, 28 guys, that was like a couple months.
Wow.
I was still,
we're slinging it now.
I was still thin and attractive back then. So you got to picture a very different me. But I mean, that's Crumb's idea of being like a big rock star, is that in his whole life he's slept with 28 women.
Yeah, well, he wasn't going to get thinner or better looking back then either. That's the 28 is a pretty good number.
Yeah. That's,
Holy
they're purely
cow.
there for the fame.
Holy cow. All in one night? Let's talk about a movie. What do you think?
We're talking about Suicide Squad.
I don't know if I have a banner for that. I didn't do one. It really doesn't matter. So we both saw Suicide Squad. Would you like to well, let me see if I have something. Hold on a sec. So did you like the movie? This is what I want to hear. Or I mean, not that you liked it. How did you feel about it? That's what I would like to hear.
Well, I know you brought me on because I was shit posting on Twitter about the James Gunn versus Scorsese kind of debate.
Is this really a thing?
Yeah. James Gunn's been like shit talking. Well, he's been making comments about Scorsese's movie comments, but
because Scorsese's talking trash about comic book movies, correct?
Yeah, that's Scorsese. Yeah, that's whole.
A lot of old movie makers have been doing that recently, haven't they? Like, did Spielberg do that also?
I don't think Spielberg did. I mean, I know. Should I run down the whole Scorsese thing for people that might know? Should I summarize the whole Scorsese James Gunn thing?
Yeah. I want to hear it. I mean, I know there's something going on, but I just don't know much about it.
Well, I mean, the general thing was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, Scorsese said, And then he followed it up with an editorial that he said that Marvel Comics movies aren't cinema. And people had a big shit fit over that phrase, that they aren't cinema.
Mhm.
But of course, everybody that says that, they have their own definition of what they mean by the word cinema. So they're not really, they're talking past each other because they're not talking about the same thing. Scorsese was saying that those movies aren't what he considered the art form that he fell in love with, which was films where a filmmaker could come in and create a personal work of art and express, like complicated adult themes. He said that Marvel movies were a roller coaster, and it's there for entertainment. You see something cool and something blows up, and and he said, and that's different than an emotional exploration, or it's not a Bergman movie,
Right.
and that's all he said. And when he says they're not cinema, that's what he means. Is he means that the art form that he considers his art form, and I think that's a totally uncontroversial statement, but of course 10 million nerds went crazy about it because they felt like he was calling them dumb and he was saying that their movies weren't good. So that, and then James Gunn, when Suicide Squad came out this last week or so, he started poking the bear and making more comments about Scorsese, and he I don't know if he does it on purpose to get attention or what, but it gets the comics nerds versus the cinema people fights going on Twitter and whatnot. So that's kind of what's been happening. I think for what Suicide is, for a comic book movie based on a corporate property, where I think to an extent they let James Gunn have certain freedoms, but I think that he still has to get approval from 500 people with business degrees for whatever he does. And I think for that kind of thing, I think it's more interesting than most comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was more and more entertaining than a lot of comic book movies.
For sure. In fact, I thought it was more entertaining than the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that he was working on. I hated those.
Those are trash.
I fell asleep. I mean, they're boring and whatever. I know there was a lot of things in this movie that felt like, oh, this happened in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the shark, King Shark, is a stand-in for Groot, right? I mean, for sure. He gets to say a few more words, but overall, he's just, there to do a couple things and be cute, right?
The jokes in these movies kind of like nails on a chalkboard to me, because they only write like 2 or 3 types of jokes. There's like the dumb guy that doesn't say very much, and then there's the guy that like says something sassy. Like Peter in the Marvel movies, Rocky Raccoon, Peter Parker, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, they all have the same quips. Like you could take an Iron Man quip and give it to Doctor Strange and it's the same quip,
Right.
And then Groot and King Shark I think is a lot of the same. You could give a lot of the same gags.
I felt a lot of the humor in this movie, Suicide Squad, came from John Cena's character, Peacemaker. I mean, everybody got a chance to try and be funny, but he got a lot of the lines. Would you not agree?
Wait, what, you said Peacemaker?
Yeah, Peacemaker. Here's a clip.
Peacemaker.
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
No.
No, that's a lot of the humor is like that.
Which, okay, this is what I'm saying. This is what Scorsese's saying, right? Is that this isn't even a criticism of comic book movies or of like dumb comedies, right? Is that it's just a different type of thing, right? Like this is a movie with 2 poop jokes in the first 4 minutes, and that's
that's right. You had said something about that. That's right.
And it's to say that this movie is not the same as a Bergman movie. That's not even a criticism of this movie. It's just saying that these are not the same type of things, right? And that's what it should be, a self-evident, obvious statement. But nerds just hear, oh, he's saying that he's better than us, so they get their panties in a twist, And he's just saying like this is not the same type of fucking thing that I'm interested in doing, That's all it is. But if you like, I mean, I like dumb movies and silly movies and kids movies, and and that's not even it's not even a value judgment. They're just different things, very different things.
I thought even though there is the poop jokes, there's a lot of dicks involved in their jokes.
Yeah.
a lot of hand gestures and things like that.
Mhm.
I felt that, granted, I don't see a lot of new movies these days. These are things that I would not be able to see in movies more often than not these days. Like, oh my God, I can't believe he. Let me see if I can. Let me do this one.
You're the leader. You're supposed to be decisive.
And I've decided that you should eat a big bag of dicks. How's that?
You're being facetious. But if this whole beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty, I would say no problemo.
Why would someone put penises all over the beach?
Who knows why madmen do what they do?
I feel like that was really edgy for today, especially if we're talking about comic book movies.
Sort of, but it's sort of that's becoming its own cliche in a way, right? Like the edgy anti-comic, because like you had Deadpool, and then Deadpool's a big thing, and so then there's Deadpool 2, and then there's like 5 other sort of R-rated, you know what I mean?
I did forget about Deadpool. That's true. That was one of the things that he obviously was poking fun about Green Lantern in that movie and other things in comic book movies or comic books. But
Yeah.
It's been a while since I saw that.
Because you get like the tiny little innovation, like something that's slightly different, and then you get the 2 years of stuff that kind of just like follows in the wake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why these things sort of drive me crazy. But
Right.
you know, but what I'm saying, like within that sort of prepackaged product, this one is more fun, I think,
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of the others.
I like the quips between the characters. I felt that for the most part, everybody had some sort of personality that was playing out. You had Flag was, I guess he was in the other movies. I don't know. But I do know the Suicide Squad from the comic book. And I know what characters are supposed to be in what section, you know. So this is the original comic book right there. At least the one that this is based off of, right? If you remember correctly, or if I remember correctly. I know there was like something older than that, but it's not the same. Not like taking superheroes or supervillains and putting them in a team like that.
No, and this wasn't based on any one version or one lineup, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Well, no, it's not. And then most recently, when the New 52 occurred, Harley Quinn became part of it. And that's where part of the look that we see in this movie or in the previous ones have come in from here. She's not like the one from the television cartoon.
No, I hate it.
And now she's all tatted up like she was in that, you know, hanging out with the Joker that's all, damaged or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
I don't know. Jesus. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't see those things. So when I see things, so what I was really enjoyed in this show or in this movie was like the title sequences. And there was a lot of them. Here's one.
There's no soldiers out here on patrol at all.
Let's just say they were distracted.
I break them up so I don't get in trouble, hopefully. And then this one, although I feel like I must have seen this in something else, but
who ate all the fucking empanadas?
Very good. I had the chicken.
I like those. I like that. It plays with it. I thought it was pretty special as far as like the superhero movies are concerned. Yeah.
I think James Gunn is really desperate to show you that he's like a cut above and that he's like a visual stylist.
Well, don't you think he comes from Trauma, right?
Yeah.
So he's always like he always has those old tweets that he did. He has Trauma movies that he did, and now he's trying to be a step above.
See, that's why he gets so butthurt, because he wishes that he was Scorsese. And when they're all, my movies are just as good as your movies, but the reason it bothers them is because they really, really wish that they were doing something that was, as highly regarded. And
do you feel like comic books is that way also? Think about Think about anytime they allow somebody to come in and kill off a character, even though they're not going to stick around and fix up the mess that they made. Outsiders coming into comic books. I'm kind of embarrassed that I'm doing this comic book movie, but at the same time, I'm gonna try and make it as special as possible, so I can go on and get a better gig.
Yeah, there's two sides to that. There's when the writer comes in from the outside, like what's his, Brad Meltzer.
That's
they
one.
did Identity Crisis.
That's
when the real writer comes into and they're slumming it in the comic books.
Definitely slumming.
And they have to prove that no, I'm doing a serious comic, so we've got to have Sue Dibney get raped and everything, because he's got to prove he's not doing something for kids. But then the other side of it though is that comic book people, they see themselves as comic book people. They have this real chip on their shoulder about not being taken as seriously as other art forms, and so you get this really defensive thing. They're so mad about like Lichtenstein using comic books and pop art and stuff, and they have such a chip on their shoulder about feeling disrespected for all these years. And it's like there's a lot of that in the Scorsese James Gunn debates. Is this nerds feeling really they feel like they're being judged for what they like, but rather than going and finding out about other things, they just get defensive and they're like, what are you talking about? Spider-Man is just as good as Citizen Kane, and they don't want to it's like, well, it's like I keep saying, it's not a value judgment. It's just a different thing. And, and they get really defensive when they feel like somebody's telling them that something else is better than their thing.
Right. Well, I mean, and then maybe Scorsese, yes. But he probably is getting to the point where less and less people these days are watching his movies. You have to be 50 or older if you're probably watching most Scorsese, anything new these days, for the most part. But I don't know where I was going with that. I had a thought. It was continuing what you were saying. It doesn't matter. It just, man, it's hard getting old. It's really what it is.
I mean, when I was a teenager, I watched silent movies and stuff, and this is when I didn't have internet until I was 17.
Right.
I'm not that old. I'm 38, but so this is when to watch a movie, I'd have to go, find a movie book, like a Leonard Maltin guide, and then I'd have to go to the video store and ask them to order me a VHS tape of something. And, it was a whole process. And it's, I watched movies from the 20s and 30s because I was just curious. And then I find stuff that I like. I find a filmmaker that I like. And so I watch the rest of his stuff, And so I don't, a lot of people now that we have the internet and everything is at your fingertips, a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's an old person movie. And it's like, why? The people are limiting themselves, but they just feel like, oh, that's not for me. But I mean, it could be.
But do you limit yourself by not watching too much stuff from today? I mean, I know I definitely do that. And so when I see something that does anything more than what I expected, maybe I marvel at the baubles that are placed in front of me for the moment, the flashy stuff, or, oh, that was kind of neat. I love how he brings out the teams of characters in different, long shots, as they're coming into focus. I dig that kind of stuff. It feels like I'm watching a movie from the 90s, maybe.
There were some nice looking shots in Suicide Squad.
I love that rain bit. I have it here, but I don't remember where I put it. But yeah, that one was really cool.
I really liked the shots when Harley Quinn was in inside the eye and the rats were floating past her.
That was nice.
Those were nice looking shots, but I don't know if they were actually in service of anything. I don't know if they actually meant anything, because I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking of James Gunn and his little feud with Scorsese. And then I see a shot like that, and it stands out in such a way that it's so different than the shots before and after. And what goes through my mind is I'm thinking, this is James Gunn trying to show you, look, guys, I can do a Kubrick shot. I can do a really cool shot. That's what it feels like to me. It doesn't feel like this is part of the movie. It feels like he thought, I have to do something to really show that this is special. I have to do something that wouldn't be in a Marvel movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it, but I mean, you know, on their own, they were cool shots. They totally were. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So this was so you're positive about this movie though.
Yeah. I mean, as far as on the spectrum of like current corporate superhero movies.
Okay. So
this was, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I sit through a lot of them just because I feel like I have to be current on pop culture. And the whole time I'm sitting through it, it took me like 2.5 days to watch Black Widow because I'd watch 10 minutes and I get annoyed and go pause it and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin when I'm watching those movies. And then the Suicide Squad, I was like, it was fine. I didn't want to kill myself.
It's I mean, now, did you see it in the theater or at home?
No, I saw it on streaming.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's so much nicer than going out. Although I wish I would have been able to get some movie theater purchase popcorn right then and there.
Not that quick. I don't know. I don't. I hope the movie theaters survive and everything, but I haven't been a fan of the movie theater experience for a long time. Just people talking and people on their phone and stupid people laughing during the sad scenes, you know, and it's just like, it's hard for me to sit in a movie theater.
Okay, let's hear. Hold on a second. Yeah, well, Snyder wishes he was Ridley Scott. Oh, okay, they're talking about the guns. Hold on a sec. Scorsese is too expensive. They are building demand for the behemoths to pull the trigger on their rate. Maybe I'm off of that one. I wonder if, if Gunn feels slightly cited by Feige by not standing up for him and seeing MCU hire all the lackluster indie drama and comedy people at helm. Oh my God, nobody with any artistic vision. People love that Guardians. I personally did not. I feel like Marvel movies are too jokey, it was more of the same, and it was really hard to distinguish it from something else.
And the same jokes, every movie.
Right.
It's like I always use the example of like the Thor Ragnarok movie. I don't know if you saw that one. But
I saw that. I hated it. I saw that movie, and I don't even know why I saw Knives Out. But I heard the same people that hated that Thor. Everybody liked that Thor movie. What am I saying? Almost everybody did. I thought it was trash.
I'm with you. I thought it was trash.
It was so horrible. It was Planet Hulk, and they screwed that up, and I just hated it.
That's the type of joke I'm talking about. Is I feel like those movies, to me, it feels like there's like an AI program that's imitating human jokes, because the jokes are just like, you know, when Thor stands up and he does a heroic pose, right? You know, like we're in a comic book movie, so like he's about to get hit in the head, right? And so it's not a funny surprise when he gets hit in the head. And when the woman, she's doing the big entrance off the off ramp on the ship or whatever it was, you know, they're doing the big entrance, and you know they're playing it serious because in a minute she's about to fall down. And so for me, it's like nails it. Like I'm just sitting there. Oh, okay. Well, they wouldn't be doing the heroic pose if he wasn't about to get knocked down. So it's not like a surprise that he gets knocked down. You're just sitting there waiting, like, okay, when's he going to get? You know, it's like 10 minutes, just 10 seconds, just dragging out. Like, okay, we're waiting for the slapstick bit, and that's how that, because you know, it's like jokes written by a committee. So there's nothing surprising.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's why. I can't laugh at that, because it's like, how can you laugh when you were waiting for the joke for 15 seconds? You already knew what it was.
I have a question. We have a question. Did you watch, I don't know what this is, ZSJL?
Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, I did.
Oh, Jesus.
Did you watch that one?
No, I did not. I watched the first 50 seconds and thought I probably should watch the movies before, and then I didn't.
You watch the first 50 seconds and you're like, shit, there's 8 more hours of this.
There's
movie.
something that happened before this, and I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah. No, I did see it.
Ragnarok was a turd, except for Kate Blanchett.
Yes, I love Kate Blanchett. And Jeff Goldblum was kind of funny. Not because they wrote him any good jokes, just because Jeff Goldblum was funny. It was just, like his
Ooh, I
face
hated
is-
him. I hated him too. I'm sick of
No.
socks.
I just like those actors. So when they would show up in the movie, I was like, at least, it's somebody I like for a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, geez, awesome. I guess we both really. I liked Suicide Squad quite a bit. I thought it was very, very violent.
Yeah.
Again, comparing it to all the other superhero movies, except for Deadpool, because I forgot about Deadpool. It was there was a lot of slapstick still in it, but it was all very deadly. The willingness to kill people and the way they go about it. I really appreciated the back and forth between Bloodsport and Peacemaker. I thought it was pretty funny. It worked out. It accentuated their characters and showed how ruthless they really were.
Should I know why is there fried chicken in a Roger Corman thing?
Don't worry about it. Is this a question you were asking? This is the best superhero movie, is what he said. It's right here.
Who said?
Sui Fried Chicken Squad.
I didn't understand where the chicken image was coming from.
It's another person.
He's streaming. Okay, I didn't get that.
We added him in a little while ago.
Okay.
He was walking back, picking up chicken.
I thought you were about to play a video clip, so I was just waiting for it.
Oh no, not yet. I was talking about it, but I mean, oh yeah, so Bloodsport. So people were talking about Bloodsport's gun. Bloodsport comes from Superman #4 by John Byrne, and he's like this dude who can I think he goes in like an inner dimension and pulls out a gun, and look at this. What did you think of Starro?
I was just going to say, actually, that was my biggest takeaway. I really like the fact that they used Starro and that they used Polka Dot Man and all that stuff, because if you're going to do, like the Suicide Squad doesn't come from the Silver Age, but these sorts of heroes and these sorts of team-up books are basically Silver Age ideas. And the one thing I'm really sick of is superhero movies that come in and they want to be all realistic and they want to be all serious. And I'm going, it's Batman. He dresses up like a bat to go get into fistfights with clowns, Like there's only a certain level of serious that you can take it to. And I really, as they've done so many serious ones, I really appreciate it if they embrace the fun, if they embrace like Starro and the silly stuff. And I think that is a very positive development. I'll say that, because I think that comic book movies really need to, they need to stop pretending that these characters were always Dark Knight Returns, and that there's, that's 70% of the history of these characters. They were for 12-year-olds and they were silly and they were fun, and that's okay. That's totally cool. That's fine. And so I really like that Starro was there.
Most recently, and I like how Starro looked like Starro. Like they really leaned into it.
He did, yeah. They didn't try to make like a realistic Starro.
No, it's
a big fucking starfish.
Exactly. And I mean, wow, the fact that it walked the way it did and it tore through this, the town the way it did, it looked real in its, preposterous ways. We saw recently a Eternals is going to be made a movie that's from Jack Kirby, the creations of Jack Kirby, and they showed them on screen the preview of the movie, and this ship that comes down is dark and gray, and big,
looks
and
like
ominous.
every other sci-fi movie.
And if you look at a Kirby drawing of this or any other of his machines or spaceships, it's wild and just, I don't know what that dial does. It doesn't matter what that dial does. It's there, and it's important because it's there. Nothing about this ship that is descending on the town or the city is like important. It looks, like you said, just like any other alien spacecraft movie.
Yeah,
It's trying to look real. Don't try and look real.
No,
for
it's
these
Jack Kirby. Don't fucking try to look real when you're doing Jack Kirby.
I have a problem when they immediately try and take people out of masks.
Right.
They try and show. Why are you telling the secret identities of characters to plebes? You know, why?
In the Marvel movie, Spider-Man's taking off his mask every 10 minutes. But
Oh.
I mean, but yeah, that's a perfect example. That was what I said to my friend when we watched the Eternals trailers. I'm like, how do you take Jack Kirby and make a movie that's visually boring? You know, you have to work so hard to make him visually boring.
Right.
And that's the other thing. I'm reading, you can see my Fantastic Four Epic collection up there. So I've been rereading all the beginning, the Kirby Fantastic Four. And I have somewhere the Fourth World Kirby and everything too. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm dreading how Marvel is going to do a Fantastic Four movie and take, you know, all this wild shit that Kirby came up with, and somehow they're going to make it, you know, look like Christopher Nolan Batman or something. You know, it's gonna suck. It should look really crazy. It should look like Starro looked in Suicide Squad.
It should look like Dr. Now that's some Kirby creations right there. Hold on. Has Superman #4 skyrocketed in price? It has gone up in price. Of course, if you slab it and it's in the highest grade, it's worth more. I don't know about it after this movie. The real thing about this movie is that in the theaters, it isn't making that much, but in home streaming, it's had a lot of people watch it. So the studio or whatever touts it as a success, but movie theaters, they're not so pleased with this. What do you think about streaming movies same day as release in the theaters? What about theaters? I mean, they're like in a comic book store situation now.
Yeah, I think Disney would release, and Warner Brothers too. They would release everything streaming only if they had a chance, because they don't have to cut in the theater owners. I mean, they say like, oh gosh, we can't wait till after COVID it all changes, but that's what Disney's always wanted to do: have just sell you shit directly, and not sell it to you so you own it, sell it to you so that you rent it, so that next month you have to pay them again for the same shit. That's exactly what streaming is. Disney's wet dream. They don't. If they could, they would never put another movie in the theater. They would just charge everybody, you know, $10 a month for their Disney Plus.
Well, with home audio or home television and entertainment systems getting even better and better all the time, there's less reasons to need to go to that's the way of America, though. I mean, it's just, I can Amazon that movie over here, and if I don't need to Amazon, I could just stream it. And the movie theater or the movie company or Disney decides that whatever they had in streaming yesterday didn't quite match up to how we're feeling about this week, so they just chopped a little bit of it up, and you're never going to possess it in the way it was before.
Edit their movies, and
they just add it immediately. Like
they don't want you to ever own anything. Disney. That's why Disney always did all their hijinks with stuff going back in the vault and all that shit, because they wanted it to be an artificial scarcity, so that you would have to keep buying the same movie every 5 years. And when they could re-release the same movie every 7 years for decades and decades, and you go back and see the same movie over and over again. That's always been what Disney wants, because they want to maximize their back catalog. But I mean, as far as the experience of watching it that way, yeah, I've got a decent 4K TV now. I got some Bose headphones that I can listen to it on, and honestly, it's better than a lot of theaters. A lot of theaters, you get a kind of shabby, projection, shabby experience. So,
yeah. So what do you think? Fast and the Furious was movies only, and it did a lot of money. So there is money to be made in the theaters. But if these Netflix and Warner Brothers and Disney doesn't want to play along, I guess like there's a chance that the smaller movies can be in theaters, and that would be a big deal. But oh man, that's asking a lot with the small movies to prop them up. Horror is only popular for a little bit of time, and then it's back to Disney. back to Pixar, back to Warner Brothers and Sony and all that other stuff.
And that's sort of what Scorsese's beef is that Scorsese, he's not upset that they make comic book movies. What he's upset about is that the theatrical experience in a few years, it's going to be to have your movie in a theater, it's going to have to be a giant $300 million movie. And so then where does that leave little movies? You know, it leaves them with like a, you know, $10,000 budget and they go direct to streaming because there's not a middle market. And, you know, a lot of people, when they're defending the comic book thing, that are arguing with what Scorsese said. They're like, you know, well, at points in the past, you know, there were 100 Western movies every year or 100 sci-fi movies every year. And, you know, so they're imagining that there's like this egalitarian utopia where there's plenty of room for all the movies and, you know, we can have every type of movies. And that's really not true as far as theaters. It's really just becoming, you have to be something, you know, I think Disney last year had, or the year before last, because last year was COVID. Year before last, Disney, what like 7 out of the top 10 highest grossing movies were all by Disney, you know? So when you have one company making 70% of the movies, and that company is only interested in billion-dollar movies, then no, it's not like, you know, little indie films aren't peacefully coexisting, you know? It's just what Disney wants to give you. That's going to be it. So, you know, I think that's a legitimate concern.
They've been hardcore about what you have to do to be a movie theater to have their movies in the theater anyway.
Yeah, it's not good for it's not good for the theaters either, because as Disney becomes the only game in town,
that's how it feels when it's Marvel ordering comics too. It's like they have these ridiculous incentives, and you'd be a fool if you don't get all this stuff. But you know, eventually it's just nobody really cares as much, and then you just get a bunch of crap
because it just becomes there's no competition to the market. It's just whatever Marvel. Yeah, being a comic book owner, being a comic book shop owner.
Yeah.
And yeah, when Disney is like, look, 70% of your businesses are movies, so we can do whatever the fuck we want. And yeah, they've been over the last few years getting just ridiculous with what they're demanding from theater owners. You know, when our movie comes out, it has to be on your 5 biggest screens. They all have to be our movie, and you have to have it for 10 weeks. You know, crazy demands. And people, it's either, you know, just you do that or you go out of business, I guess.
Yeah, go out of business. Or Disney's buying up those movie theaters and they're only going to show their stuff there. Another way to ace them out.
I think, there would have been a time where Disney would have wanted to open their own movie theaters. I think the Disney Plus is what they're doing instead now. I think that is the Disney theater. That's the home theater.
Did you see when David Lynch was talking shit about people watching movies on phones and stuff like that? It was like a TikTok or something like that. I don't know.
There's been a few, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get a little saucy about people watching things the way they're not supposed to be watched. But can you make a movie for a phone and then it's okay?
Yeah, but it's a different art form. That's what Scorsese is saying is like, yeah, sure, there could be a superhero movie or there could be a YouTube movie that's designed for your phone. But that's not, when he says it's not cinema, what he means by cinema is the theatrical going experience of personal artistic movies. That's what he's talking about.
Is there any superhero movie, regardless of Marvel, DC, or anybody else, that you would consider cinema that you've seen?
Well, by Scorsese's definition of
cinema?
I
mean, as close to at least. You know, what is the art? How about this? What's the what is the singular comic book movie that's out there right now? What is the From Hell? You know, what is the?
That was a pretty bad movie. The From
Hell.
No.
What is the From Hell movie? What is the From Hell comic book?
Yeah.
What comic book is? So if we were saying in the beginning, James Joyce to comic books, what is the comic book James Joyce? What is the comic book movie James Joyce or Scorsese? It's a nice little bookend to the show.
Comic book movie that I think is a great movie. Ghost World is a great movie.
Oh, Ghost World is very good.
But if we're talking superheroes,
I think we're gonna have to stick with superheroes. Did you ever see Darkman?
No.
It was kind of like an ode to superhero comic book or to comic books, and I think the fact that it was trying to replicate a comic book in a movie form, I think that does a pretty good job. Don't show the Rocketeer. A lot of people like that. I don't know about that.
Along those lines, I mean, one of my videos on my channel is about the Warren Beatty Dick Tracy movie, which I consider that's probably the last time that I think a comic book, if you call Dick Tracy a superhero, which he sort of is.
I'm going to give it to you right now.
That I think is a great film. I think it's a very, there we go. I don't know what this is.
There you go. He's got it all right there.
He's got Dick Tracy comics, just he's pulling him out of his ass. Okay. Yeah, that Dick Tracy, I think and it's kind of what you just said is that it, I don't know if you've seen that movie recently or if you know it very well, but it really tries to replicate the visual things that are important to the character of the comics. You know, Dick Tracy, he's got his yellow trench coat, you know, everything's like primary colors. And he didn't try to come in and do like a realistic Christopher Nolan Dick Tracy. He did this is Dick Tracy. You know, the villains, the villains, they look like cartoons. They've got the crazy disfigured heads, and Dick Tracy's got his yellow hat, you know. And because of that, I think it makes the character work so much better than when you try to do like you know, whatever shit Marvel does.
We've got the knee-jerk response would be The Dark Knight. Yeah, The Dark Knight. Just The Dark Knight. And then Fantinian says Raimi did Darkman because they wouldn't let him do Batman.
Yeah, somebody said his history of violence, which
yeah.
That's why I asked you for limiting to superheroes, because if we're not
I want to at least have something that's like extracurricular, not just
because
prune faces, you know, at least that, you know, or
if we're going outside of superheroes, there's History of Violence, I think is a great movie. Road to Perdition is a great movie. You could call Crumb, the documentary Crumb, a comic book movie, because it's really about how his comics are adapted from his life. And that's a masterpiece, the documentary. So those are all great movies that are from comics.
Right.
Not superheroes so much, but
what do you think of the Christopher Reeve Donner, Richard Donner Supermans?
Oh,
I know a lot of new people will see those movies and think they're kind of boring. I think they have a lot of faults, regardless of Richard Donner directed it all the way through or not. I don't know which one that is, but
the second one. The Christopher Reeve Superman is
you'll believe a man can fly.
I know that movie is very special to some people, and I understand the reason why. For me, even as a little kid, when I saw that movie, I just wasn't interested. It's a little kid, you know, when you're a little kid and they put on like a superhero and you'll watch anything and you know, no value judgment. But the Christopher Reeve Superman, I only got like halfway through the VHS tape. I just did nothing for me.
Men in Black was a comic also, yes. That was pretty good. I like that movie. Men in Black
is from a comic. The Mask is from a comic. Annie, you know the musical Annie. That's actually decent with Carol Burnett and everything.
We just saw that the other day, actually.
Or did you really?
Yeah,
I loved that when I was a little kid. That's a comic book movie. It's totally a comic book. Addams Family is a comic book movie.
Boom. I don't know if these are like the Scorsese ones though.
Well, but the first 90s Addams Family, that one, I think I love that movie. The first one. But yeah, those are all comic book movies.
Yeah. Maybe we haven't got there yet, though, as far as superheroes. It's hard. Is there a superhero comic book that is the James Joyce? I know a lot of people will want Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. That's what when nerds want to say that, like, well, you know, superheroes are just as good as literature, they point to Watchmen, right? That's the one. Which I think is very telling, because Watchmen's 35 years old at this point. So how come we haven't had another Watchmen for 35 years? And I think it's because DC and Marvel don't really respect that type of storytelling. Watchmen sort of is like a self-contained novel, you know, and it's very, for the structure and everything is very ambitious. And Marvel, DC looks at that and they're like, oh, let's do like the Rorschach spinoff series, and let's do like the, you know, before Watchmen and Doomsday. That's how Marvel and DC work, and that's not how literature works, right?
Mhm.
And that's why I think that they don't make a lot of Watchmen, because they want like sort of franchises that they can make toys out of. But I think that if you're at like the great, that's pretty much it. As far what else would you say is like a great superhero comic that's like a maybe All-Star Superman, maybe? Or
Yeah, I guess that would be a good one. You might say something again. You're just looking at Alan Moore books for the most part. His Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Right.
Wonderful. His What Do You Give the Man Who Has Everything? The Black Mercy story. That's excellent. You go to his Promethea, and I know people have problems in places, but wow, what a fantastic concept! And he knows how to take the past and really update it and make it still as powerful as it was meant to be, whether those creators knew or not. And so, like in Prometheus, kind of doing like a Wonder Woman, kind of, at least initially, and it's just really super great. And I don't know, there's it when you start thinking about superheroes, especially, you start thinking about like what allowances you have to accept to think that something is good or not, or it's like a high level, because more often than not, when it's like an IP, this when you full examination of something that's owned by somebody else that other people are working with, you see a lot of the blemishes that are there, and it's hard to get past them after a while. There are some like really fantastic comic storylines. There's some superhero storylines, but if you want those really, really powerful stories, you got to look elsewhere than superhero comics. Although there is going to be a brand new collection. Let's see if I have a picture of it still. There's going to be a brand new, I took it down, a brand new collection of Enigma by Peter Milligan and Duncan Fegredo. It was a Vertigo 8-issue miniseries, I think. And it is about a guy who's really super dissatisfied in his life, and the comic book characters that he used to read as a kid are coming to life, and it's affecting him. It's gonna like totally affect him. So it's the Enigma is a superhero character, and all his villains are coming in, and it's really fantastic. And there are so many elements to it that like I could say, oh, if you like this, you'll really enjoy this. And if you would want to see a thing that's a thing within this, and I don't want to tell you, you'll be really amazed at the end of the book. It's so fantastic and really good. And I think it's IDW that's putting it out this time, maybe Dark Horse. But it's finally coming out again. It's hardcover, and I definitely recommend that. That's one of my favorite. That's feels like a Magnus Opus kind of superhero story.
I think I know I haven't read it, but I heard about it, I think, back in the day. I'm trying to remember what I know about it, but
I'll tell you everything afterwards.
It's a little bit of, it sounds a little like Flex Mentallo-ish kind of.
Yeah, well, when you're working with, so Peter Milligan's very good. He was kind of like, you got your Alan Moore coming into America and working on comics. And then after that, you have like Neil Gaiman and Grant Morrison. And then under that, well, and at the same time, Jamie Delano, but he's under there. And then you have Peter Milligan and, other guys that I can't think of right now, guys and gals. But Peter Milligan was, I don't know, man. He was like my not Grant Morrison favorite. And he could do no wrong, and his Enigma's fantastic.
I never read a lot of him, but I loved Neil Gaiman. I loved Sandman back in the day. Are you excited for the TV show they're doing?
Yeah, I'm a
little bit
totally excited. I mean, well, the thing is I don't really watch all that stuff that much, and to actually sit down and see Suicide Squad, that's a big deal. I I don't really care to see Sandman on the small screen. I'll probably watch an episode and see how it's done and either be very happy with it and then never watch another episode, or be disgusted by it and never watch another episode. I watched one episode of Invincible. It was awesome. Do I need to watch more? I read the comic.
No, I think I understand that, because if I really like a book or something, I like it as it is. I don't want to see it adapted. I don't really need to see a different, I like what it suits, it was good the way I read it. I don't need to see a TV version or a movie version so I'm kind of ambivalent about the Sandman TV show, but I'll give it a couple.
Here we have one last one before we leave. The Max Immortal will be the opus when and if it ever reaches the live action screen theater. If they could make anything that Veitch did come to life in comic book form, that would be something special. Give me Brat Pack. That's the one I'm looking for.
I don't know what Max Immortal is.
Max Immortal is it's in like that Brat Pack and the One universe that Rick Veitch did for, I think, Epic Comics, if I'm not mistaken. And it starts, I think, with Brat Pack. And that's where you have all your analogs of the superheroes. So you have a Batman, which is called the Mink. And instead of Robin, I can't remember what he's called. And he screws him. So there you go.
Oh, that Robin's gay too.
Oh, well, that Robin's getting molested for sure. And there's a Wonder Woman.
Oh, he's like a little kid Robin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And there's a Wonder Woman analog.
To be clear, I'm talking about like a late teen, early 20s kind of young adult Robin. When I'm
you've aged it up since you were a kid, is what you're telling me.
Burt Ward was like 22, right? There's nothing wrong with having. I make
Burt
no
Ward
apologies.
was definitely of age. He wasn't.
I make no apologies for my Burt Ward quote. It gets a little bit weird when you say Robin, and Robin is Damien, and he's like 12 years old, and Bruce is his dad.
Well,
that's not the wrong.
Got a whole other thing going there.
Yeah, that's not. This is not like an incest kink. No, this is not a
totally different section on Pornhub altogether.
Different ball of wax. Yeah.
Kind of like The Boys. Yes, in fact, I often say that The Boys is a raunchier and maybe a little less. Maybe a more, well, I don't know about the TV show, but a little bit more dumbed down version of Brat Pack. And that one's out there. If they could ever get a Veitch on television or in a movie, that would be something else.
I did read
right. Are you attacking gays now? Is that what's going on, Rick?
Am I attacking gays?
Well, it definitely wasn't me.
Oh, did he come in after the part of the show where we talked about how I have a sexual obsession with Robin?
He might have gotten here a little late. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody for coming and joining us. We had a bunch of people at one time, and we had a really fun conversation about Suicide Squad. And I can't wait to see what kind of copyright claims will get taken on against me. Doesn't matter because I don't have 1,000 subscribers yet, but I would really like for that to change in the future. If you could tell a friend, that would be really awesome. Maybe join us next time. And if you haven't subscribed, do so and hit the bell for notifications. Until next week, we'll see you in the comic book store. Bye.